So there was a sale on the Xbox store a few weeks ago, and to my surprise a recently released little indie game that I'd had my eye on for a while was on sale. Thinking that boded especially well for something that was barely a week old, I downloaded it, twiddled my thumbs, and waited for it to boot up to a rather theatrical and over-the-top menu screen. Sweet, I thought, and punched the new game button. As it turned out, there was a pretty good reason why the game was on offer already. Get Even is a first-person action-adventure psychological stealthy horror but not really game developed by The Farm 51, a Polish studio comprising of former Painkiller developers whose names I am not going to try to pronounce. It was released on the 23rd of June, 1 month after its initially scheduled release date of late May, out of respect for the victims of the Manchester attack, which, whilst a little odd, is fair play to the developers and I applaud them for their decency. You play as the not even slightly humorously named Cole Black, who sounds so frustratingly like Sean Bean that I can't help but feel like it was done on purpose. You're a mercenary of sorts who has been tasked with rescuing a young girl who happens to have a bomb strapped to her chest. I'll give you 3 guesses what happens next. So post-explosion, you wake up near an abandoned asylum in a rather effective intro that sets up a game that never happens. The atmosphere in these opening 2 hours is outstanding, dripping with tension and mystery, greatly helped by its intriguing premise. Examining the building, following cryptic clues, and keeping an eye out for dusty old mannequins is a good setup, and the game does a fair job of making this feel like the horror game it wants us to believe it is. It's a shame it never makes good on this premise, because the first 2 hours were exactly what I wanted from it, but the next 6, not so much. After this point, the game takes a turn into Crazy Town. It starts trying to be smart with a plot that meanders around and around in circles, sometimes making out that something totally obvious was a huge deal, and other times tying together strings that were pretty much on alternate planes of existence. The story had several what the hell moments, with a particularly peculiar ending that had me equal parts bewildered and frustrated. It's a story that sounds more interesting than it is if you were to talk about it out loud. Cole fails to save the girl and must figure out why she was exploded in the first place by traversing his memories of the incident via a VR headset. The premise is great, it's the execution that isn't. The reason for my neither here nor there on what exactly the game isn't just me being awkward, it's quite literal. This is a first-person game that involves some stealth elements, shoot-'em-up sections, and aspects of psychological thriller, though it isn't particularly brilliant at any of them. The stealth is awkward and finicky, with the AI seeming to pick and choose exactly when it wants to pay attention to you and when it wants to spot you from halfway across the map, leading to some bizarre encounters that resemble either shooting fish in a barrel or a violent conga line. It doesn't help that the game cheerily hands you a gun the moment you need one, but the instant you use it, you are derided and informed that you are a violent brute who deserves to be punished. So, do you want me to use this gun or not, game? There aren't just issues with the game's shooting and stealth mechanics. In general, each aspect of the game is ham-fisted at best and dull at worst. The game juggles a lot of mechanics but never excels in any of them, and there's no central mechanic or theme around which it revolves. It spins a lot of plates and ends up dropping them all. Get Even has no real identity or understanding of its purpose. It has a plot, but that plot winds up becoming the video game equivalent of a soap opera. It has a gun, but it doesn't want you to use it. It has horror elements, but they're so on the nose after the first few hours that they're hardly horror at all. It has characters, and by God does it have a lot of them, but none of them feel real. They're caricatures, cardboard cutouts with no motivations or reason to exist beyond being another spinning plate in the grander circus. The game also never ends. It keeps going way beyond the point of being interesting and starts to become a chore to play. It is obscenely long compared to what it should be, with the story stretched out way beyond its breaking point until it's paper thin. This game currently retails at $24.99 and I bought it for 2/3 of that price, and though it sounds like a strange thing to say, it is far too expensive. The game drags like nobody's business, and by the midpoint I was busy wondering what to cook for dinner for the next 5 days. Maybe it's just me. I enjoy a good story, and I could see the glimmer of potential in Get Even, but it never tried to make anything more of itself and wound up being a pile of wet lettuce. It's not all doom and gloom though. There are a few things that Get Even does that I appreciate. The whole thing isn't a mess. There's the corner gun, an appropriately named appendage spouting handgun that allows you to shoot round corners, which is a welcome addition that I'm frankly amazed has never appeared in a game before. The voice acting is pretty good, with some great displays of raw emotion, particularly towards the final hour or so. The game also looks reasonable, although it runs a bit ski-whiff, sometimes running smoothly for hours before the frame rate tanks, particle effects upset the engine, and textures forget to load in until you stare at them long enough to spook them. And finally, when it is trying to be a horror game, it does a decent job most of the time. I was quite tense throughout the first 2 to 3 hours and enjoyed the atmosphere, pacing and tension that was being set up. The primary emotion I felt afterwards was disappointment at what could have been. But more than anything, Get Even is a one-trick pony that could have been a fun parade. The reckless abandon of its many mechanics surmounts the absurd. It's trying to be too many things at once and bleats about your actions having consequences, although it never amounts to anything. It has enough to keep you going if you want to know what on earth is going on with the story, but its twists and turns are elementary at best, and its bland AI, samey set pieces and dulcet-toned protagonists and antagonists spend most of their time beating you over the head with the consequences of your actions in a simulated world. Much like the Ghost in the Shell remake, it has a silver platter of philosophy spread before it, but it asks all the wrong questions. If you're intrigued by its premise, then I'd suggest picking it up when it's on sale for about £15 or your regional equivalent. There's plenty of promise in Get Even that isn't lived up to, but despite spending most of this video lambasting it, I'm still intrigued by what the developers can do next. If they stripped away a few of the pointless additions and just focused on the core aspects of the game that made its opening hours so intense and enjoyable, they'd create a stellar horror game. For now, I'm content to uninstall Get Even and await the developer's next move. Cat, what the hell are you doing?
What? Don't eat that. What the hell?
No, really, no, don't eat that.
That is not something you're supposed to eat. Thank you. How do you find these things?
Jesus.
Just stop eating shit.